Tonight, in his last New Year's message as President Buhari calls on the citizens to unite as one country to weather all challenges facing the nation as our states resolve to ensure successful conduct of the 2023 general elections. Independent National Electoral Commission INEC says over 2 million voter cards are yet to be collected in Lagos and Abuja, 55 days to the 2023 general elections. We continue our assessment of sectoral performance in 2022. The National Assembly comes under the spotlight tonight. The former head of the Catholic Church, Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI, dies at the age of 95. And it's less than 2 hours to the new year in Nigeria, but in some cities around the world, it's fireworks as they welcome 2023.
On business news tonight, President Muhammadu Buhari announces his administration's resolve to focus on building and maintaining economic growth through the National Economic Diversification Agenda in the new year.
On sports news tonight, league leaders Arsenal FC beat Brighton 4-2 in Saturday's Premier League clash at the Amex Stadium for the year 2022 to go 7 points clear at the top of the table.
It's the night before the new year, in fact, less than 2 hours here in Nigeria. And the president is felicitated with citizens on seeing the year 2022 to the very end. When in his last New Year message to the nation as president to usher in 2023, President Muhammadu Buhari notes that this year has been particularly important to him, and his message is a valedictory one after serving for 7+ years. According to the president, in the next 5 months, Nigeria will have gone to the polls and elected a new president, along with new governors and a plethora of other elected officials at both the national and state levels. And he restates his commitment to seeing that the 2023 elections are diligently conducted by INEC so that the collective electoral will and votes of Nigerians will be fulfilled. President Buhari says reflecting on year 2022 allows his government to examine its legacies of successes and challenges, as well as celebrate the wins and review obstacles. President Buhari wants Nigerians to understand that governance is a continuum, which still places a transitional responsibility on this administration to provide for the incoming government a non-partisan and objective roadmap for 2023. He further asked Nigerians to unite as one country under the will of God and actively grow as an indivisible entity, having been enabled over the years to weather all stormy weathers and emerge stronger and better where others have fallen and disintegrated. He says this has made us a unique nation across the globe and our continent. Well, speaking of the elections which the president spoke about, there are over 2 million uncollected permanent voter cards in Lagos and the nation's capital, Abuja, alone. Well, this is according to the latest update from the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, on the ongoing PVC collection. The statistics of collection released by the electoral umpire reveals that a total of 2,154,606 PVCs are uncollected in Lagos and the FCT as at the end of work on Friday. INEC officers in Lagos and the FCT had received over 9 million PVCs from the INEC headquarters for distribution, and that includes the backlog of uncollected voter cards from 2011 till date. INEC commenced the distribution of the cards to registrants on December the 12th this year and will continue till January the 22nd, 2023, a time frame which some say is too short for most potential voters to get their cards. Well, INEC believes all is set for the general elections, which is just less than 2 months away, but not everyone thinks so. Well, Channels Television spoke to some election observers in Nigeria who share their thoughts on INEC's preparedness, the new technologies that will be deployed, such as the Bimodal Voter Accreditation System, the BVAS, and the training of ad hoc staff. Well, some of these observers are concerned that the Commission is yet to begin training of ad hoc staff who will handle these devices during the elections.
The countdown to the 2023 general elections on the website of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, is fast winding down. From a 5-month wait when the Commission released the elections timetable in September, INEC and indeed Nigerians now have less than 60 days to the elections. For the electoral umpire, February 25 next year is good to go, as over 70% of all that is required have been taken care of.
We have set up various committees that will drive this particular election. And the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission has made it clear that never again under his watch will any election be rescheduled or postponed on account of logistics or logistic challenges.
The 2023 elections will see the deployment of some new technologies, such as the BVAS machine, which the Commission says will be the game changer. However, does the Commission have enough for deployment to the 176,974 polling units in Nigeria?
We have a total of 176,846 polling units throughout the Federation. Each polling unit will have a BVAS. We also have 8,809 registration areas for electoral wards. We are going to have redundancies of spare BVAS in all these electoral wards. So we are going to have at least 2 spare BVAS in every registration area. So we have enough BVAS that will accommodate all our polling units and all our registration areas.
Although INEC has repeatedly asserted its preparedness for the elections next year, some observers are expressing concern over the Commission's readiness.
When you have just about 8 weeks to the first of the elections, you want to see that INEC is ticking the boxes correctly. You want to see that INEC is done with the distribution of PVCs. Unfortunately, we haven't gone very far with that. You want to see that ad hoc staff have been identified and are being trained. We haven't gone very far with that. You also want to see INEC say, yes, we have procured all the materials needed. The BVAS, what is the training for the BVAS? How will it be used? All of these are preparations that we want to see. I don't know the extent of INEC's preparations. We can only wait to hear what INEC says its preparations are and how much it has delivered on the preparations it is making. But quite frankly, I think that as someone who has seen so many elections in this country, I need to see INEC say to us and show to us the extent of preparations.
Where do we store sensitive material? You know, before now, INEC stores it with the Central Bank of Nigeria, because we all know that the Central Bank of Nigeria have the infrastructure and can guarantee safety and security of this sensitive material across Nigeria, because they have offices and their vaults are one of the most sophisticated. But from our last meeting with INEC chairman, he confirmed that, you know, they are not going to store it at the CBN vault. But he didn't provide answers on where they would keep this sensitive material. Because see, for us, we don't want anything that would jeopardize the integrity and the outcome of this election in 2023. And these are answers that must be provided by INEC chairman. And this also shows how ready they are.
The 2023 polls will commence with the Presidential and National Assembly elections on February the 25, an exercise many say will shape Nigeria's future.
We turn our attention to the 9th National Assembly, which entered 2022, its last full year, with a resolve to fulfill the mandates in its legislative agenda, one of which is the amendment of the 1999 Constitution, which it passed. However, from the assessment of some analysts, 2022 was a mixed bag of highs and lows for the National Assembly. Now, while they commend the legislature for its responsiveness to some national issues and the passage of constitution amendment bills, they fault the lawmakers for their lackluster oversight of government ministries, departments, and agencies in 2022. Correspondents Linda Akigbe and Terry Kumi review the National Assembly in the outgoing year.
In 2022, the National Assembly embarked on one of its most important endeavors, amending the 1999 Constitution. Previous assemblies have had a go at amending the 1999 Constitution with varying levels of success.
Now the consensus among Nigerians others that the 1999 Constitution is flawed and does not capture the collective aspirations of Nigerians.
From the moment the Ninth Assembly announced it would amend the nation's constitution, the declaration was met with a debate in the public sphere on the efficacy of the National Assembly's piecemeal approach of amending the constitution and if this method is in the best interest of a nation. Undeterred by these viewpoints, the National Assembly began the process of amending the 1999 Constitution in January 27, 2020, and climaxed on March 1, 2022, when the Senate and House of Representatives voted on 68 constitution amendment bills. Some of these bills center on issues which have captured public interest over the years. But a legislative analyst is dissatisfied with the manner the National Assembly handled the amendment process.
It was too slow for comfort. So I think that process suffered. It was not properly chaperoned, by those responsible for it. It was also not properly. There was no dedication to it. I could put it that way. So I'm afraid that perhaps another huge sum of money gone down the drain.
But Parliament failed to amend all the constitutional gender bills before it, an action which infuriated gender rights activists, triggering days of protest at the National Assembly. Unfortunately, it appears that the Ninth National Assembly's attempt to amend the 1999 Constitution may be an exercise in futility, as Parliament has accused state assemblies of stalling the process.
We received a letter from the Conference of Speakers of State Assemblies informing the National Assembly that the remaining states will not act. The remaining states will not act on the 44 bills unless the National Assembly passes 4 new bills they have proposed in the letter.
I don't think the Constitution can be amended under this government the way it is going. It is too late.
The House of Representatives considered 221 bills in 2022. The Senate, on the other hand, worked on 142 bills during the year.
Those against any, the ayes have it.
In addition to the passage of some critical legislations, the Senate and House of Representatives gave attention to several bills to establish federal government funding institutions, a practice which a legislative analyst faults.
In an area where we are talking of reducing the cost of governance, and what you see are bills to establish one institution of higher learning in their community, in their backyard, bills to, so again, this is where the issue of value, how much contribution does such bills or proposals make to the governance process?
Mr. Epia also questions the avalanche of bills introduced by some federal lawmakers in 2022 without corresponding actions to ensure they are passed.
Most of these bills are stuck on first reading, but none of them goes to the more critical charts of, the productivity of the bills, the progression of the bills.
Beyond the passage of legislations, the National Assembly intervened in some issues of national importance. The leadership of the House of Representatives intervened in the strike by the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, and made good its promise by including 170 billion naira for salary renegotiation and 300 billion naira for revitalization of Nigerian universities in the 2023 budget.
Can even talk of the recent CBN policy which the National Assembly rose, both chambers rose against it, and I think you can see CBN backpedaling and increasing the limit.
The Ninth Assembly will terminate in 2023, but both houses still have a few months to go, and keen observers want Parliament to give attention to some issues.
It would be great if the National Assembly is able to get a hang on our debt crisis, to be able to sit up and address the issues of revenue and borrowing and try to fix the economy.
In anticipation of a 10th National Assembly with a high turnover of lawmakers, Nigerians would hope to see a crop of parliamentarians who would prioritize national interest and would be more proficient in finding quick and lasting solutions to the country's economic challenges.
They would also want the National Assembly to properly scrutinize loan requests from the president to ensure that the country is not plunged deeper into debt. Now, analysts also want the National Assembly to pay greater attention to issues of fiscal discipline and revenue generation through its oversight of federal government agencies. From the National Assembly, Linda Hibe.
Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
In part two, after the break, we have more on the assessment of the 9th Assembly's 2022 performance. Plus, the chairman of the PDP Presidential Campaign Council, Governor Udom Emmanuel of Akwa Ibom State, meets with his Rivers and Benue counterparts in Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital, says visit was apolitical. That's in a moment. Do stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, live on Channels Television. A reminder of our main stories. In his last New Year's message to Nigerians as a #1 citizen, the president calls on Nigerians to unite as one country to weather all challenges facing the nation. He states resolved to ensure successful conduct of the 2023 general elections. Independent National Electoral Commission INEC says over 2 million voter cards are yet to be collected in Lagos and Abuja, 55 days to the elections. We continue our assessment of the sectoral performance in 2022, and the National Assembly comes under the spotlight tonight. And it's less than 2 hours to the new year in Nigeria, but in some cities around the world, it's excitement as they welcome 2023. Well, to examine our assessment of the 9th Assembly, Father, we have a legislative analyst, Mr. Chibuzo Okeke, who joins us live from our Abuja studio. Good morning, or good evening, Mr. Okeke. We'll see him already in the new year. Thank you for joining us on the news at 10.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you for having me. It's Okereke, actually. Thank you.
All right. Well, let's talk about the 9th Assembly, because the legislature, as it is government too, being the third arm. What will be your own assessment of that section of government? I mean, in the area particularly of security and economy. How would you describe the quality of legislation?
Well, first, like you pointed out, the legislature is a very important arm of government. In fact, actually the first arm, of the government, because it is the only arm of government that symbolizes the existence of democracy in any country. And I think that in a country like Nigeria, where there have been pervasive insecurity, well, I've seen the National Assembly, especially the 9th Assembly, taking some steps, but how those steps have contributed, to solving the insecurity challenges is what we may have to interrogate. For instance, there have been security conference or summit by the House of Representatives. There have been interaction and budgetary approvals, for the executive arm to tackle insecurity. But what I find challenging is that we have not applied the same energy, in the National Assembly used in making those appropriations to oversight the, implementation of those appropriation of funds, and to make sure that it produces the right result. Because, as you know, the insecurity has continued to be a challenge, to the country. So I think, yes, steps are taken to approve monies, but again, on the other side, there have been weak oversight activities to ensure that the authorities responsible deliver on their mandates in line with the appropriations made by the National Assembly.
From the very beginning, the 9th Assembly, will seem, has tried time and again to distance itself from that rubber stamp tag which some have given it, essentially trying to raise that responsibility of keeping a check for the executive. Your own assessment, did they succeed in doing that this year?
Well, I don't think they have succeeded in doing that. One of the verdicts this assembly will go home with is actually the one that the Senate President passed on the assembly at the last NILS convocation ceremony, where he declared the National Assembly is prostrate and are incapable of doing certain, things. I know that because of the challenges the 8th Assembly experienced, the fiasco with the executive arm. This assembly took off trying to amend relationship, form a kind of cooperation and collaboration, with the executive. In my judgment, that arrangement have only served the executive better. It has not served the National Assembly. Because you see, if we want democracy to thrive and deliver happiness to the people, we must strengthen the institution of the National Assembly. And the National Assembly members must also recognize that the responsibility they have is for the Nigerian people. And it's a place where you don't have representative representing you. You are the representative, the voice of the people, unlike what you have, in the executive. So any attempt to, put away that toga of Robert Stam will be very difficult, even though many people interpret it as cooperation to deliver, national development policies and projects. However, there are instances where the National Assembly was expected, to be on the side of the people. It didn't happen. There are also other areas where, actually, like in the Electoral Act Amendment, where the first passage put compulsory direct primaries. So the people rose against it, and National Assembly also responded by amending it. So it has been a journey of strides and slides, but the toga of Robert Stam, I don't think the Ninth Assembly will escape from it. And that is basically because the majority people want to protect the interests of their party. And politically speaking, is understandable. But in terms of benchmarking quality representation for the people who are yearning, for better results, it will be challenging to stay away from that.
Well, let's wrap up with this one in less than a minute. I mean, they still have some months to go. What would you say is outstanding for them that they must achieve before the Ninth Assembly winds down totally?
Well, the Ninth Assembly has a great responsibility with their unfinished business of the Constitutional Amendment. As we pointed out, the Constitutional Amendment they have proposed have significant provisions that could alter our governance structure and deliver development to Nigerian people, like the local government autonomy, the state assembly, autonomy, the separation of the Attorney General Office of the Federation and that of federal government, Accountant General of the Federation and that of the federal government, moving airport from exclusive list to the concurrent, moving railway, and other very, very visionary and significant provisions. So for me, that is a very big unfinished business that could question the legacy mark of this Ninth Assembly. So I encourage them to come back from the elections and apply their energies and skills, lobby and interact with the State Assembly and the Executive, and ensure that the huge amount of money, time and other resources we have spent in proposing this constitutional amendment that is actually brought to fruition and to deliver the right kind of result for the Nigerian people.
Well, I would like to thank you so much, Mr. Chibuzo Okeke, for your insight on this topic tonight. Thank you so much. And again, Happy New Year in advance.
Happy New Year. Thank you.
Well, to the subnationals now, where the Akwa Ibom State Governor and the chairman of the People's Democratic Party Presidential Campaign Council, Udom Emmanuel, has met with Governor Nyesom Wike a day after the Rivers State Governor again pledged to endorse any presidential candidate he so wishes. The meeting, which held privately at the Port Harcourt home of Governor Wike, also had in attendance the Governor of Benue State, Mr. Samuel Ortom. And after over 3 hours of discussions, Governor Udom Emmanuel told journalists that the meeting was apolitical and was to demonstrate love and friendship in the spirit of the season. His host, Governor Wike, also corroborated his colleague's position.
I think actually this is the season of love. Within this period, if you don't actually demonstrate that love, I mean, love not not shown, his love wasted. So I think that's what we are trying to demonstrate.
Private relationship politics is not what should divide brothers and divide friends. Everybody knows my relationship with Udom, and we'll continue to maintain that relationship. We may have different political affiliation or thinking. That should not, divide or create the brotherly love or create a gap. So, like he said, all of the spirit of the birth of Christ and all going to new year, they need to continue with that relationship as brothers and friends.
And also speaking, the Benue State Governor Samuel Ortom gave further insight into issues discussed during the meeting.
We're here to share with ourselves, and especially that today is 31st of December, is the end of the year 2022. Today we're going to go to 2023, and we shared among ourselves how can we best add value to our government, how can we best add value to our people, how can we do things that we help add value to our country, Nigeria. And if there are any issues in the past which we have done wrong, we look at it and say, look, let's forgive one another and move forward.
Well, still ahead on the news at 10, we have more from Rivers State. This time it's political. Plus, President Buhari announces his administration's resolve to focus on building and maintaining growth through the National Economic Diversification Agenda in the new year. To join us again. Governor Wike of Rivers State has told those wishing a division among the G5 governors of the PDP that the group, which seeks internal democracy in the party, is getting stronger. While he agrees with a comment by the PDP vice presidential candidate and Delta State Governor, Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa, that only God gives power, Governor Wike says that their prayer is that God should give power to those who will not sell off the country. He was speaking during the flag-off of a road project in Aoda East local government area of the state.
The launch of new projects continues in Rivers State even on New Year's Eve, as Governor Nyesom Wike visits Ahoda East local government area for the second time in 2 weeks to flag off the construction of this road project. The 6.1-kilometer Ogbo-Ihugbodo Road is said to be a part of the deliberate effort by the present administration to turn the area to a suburban region.
From here up to Ihugbodo is about 4.1 kilometers, and because it is a natural vegetation, it's going to be cambered, the road is going to be cambered into the natural vegetation, and then we'll have one-side drains. And so we have a total of 6.1-kilometer road and 4 kilometers of drains.
The doing of infrastructure, the governor of Rivers State.
For Governor Wike, flagging off the project on a day like this attests to his commitment to the development of infrastructure in Rivers State. The governor is, however, asking for their votes in appreciation of his PDP administration.
All of you know as a successor, you know as a successor. Similarly, I hope you know. I know our deputy, a known professor. And you know you have to return all the assembly people for me and the House of Reps. None will go to anywhere. Isn't that true? Will you divide our vote? Will you vote for us?
He takes the moment to also respond to some comments by his political opponents on the crisis in his party.
We know that it's only God that gives power. But our prayer is to our God. Don't allow those who will sell off Nigeria in next 1 second to be in power. So nobody should tell us that it's God. We know. And that's why God is still making G5 to be stronger and stronger.
He then flags off the construction of the road. Apart from the construction of this road, Governor Nyesom Wike steers fresh jubilation by promising to present a staff of office to their traditional ruler as a state government-recognized monarch.
As Nigerians await the delivery of justice in the killings of Omobolanle Rahim and Gafar Buraimo by officers of the Nigerian police, the Nigerian Bar Association, NBA, says it has constituted an ad hoc committee to help in coordinating all the steps that have so far been taken to ensure the prosecution of ASP Drambi Vandi, as well as those responsible for the death of Gafar Buraimo. The National Publicity Secretary of the Association, Akorede Lawal, in a statement says the 9-man committee, which is to be headed by Titilola Akinlawo, is mandated to continue to interface with the families of the late victims, the police and the Office of the Attorney General of Lagos State until the conclusion of prosecution in the respective cases. The committee is also to hold watch and brief on behalf of the NBA in the course of the prosecutions and give periodic reports. The statement adds that the committee is empowered to file civil suit on behalf of the families of late Omobolanle Rahim and Gafar Buraimo and do all that is necessary to obtain reasonable compensation for the families. Well, studies have shown that most cases of physical and sexual assault against women and underage often go unreported, while those reported are often unresolved due to bureaucracy and corruption allegedly perpetrated by government officials in collusion with accused persons. In this report, our correspondent Bukola Samuel Wemimo tells the story of some survivors of physical assault whose cases have been mired in controversy.
Another 16 days of activism against gender-based violence may have ended with some success on awareness creation, but very little progress has been achieved in deterring perpetrators. This comes as women's rights activists continue to receive cases of physical and sexual assault against women and minors. In the last quarter of 2022 alone, a non-governmental organization, the Advocates for the Protection of Children and Vulnerable Persons, has received over 100 cases of sexual and physical assault against mostly women, most of which have made little headway in the hands of law enforcement agents. 36-year-old Chioma Odunza was 5 months pregnant when she was physically assaulted by a next-door neighbor following a disagreement over a parking space. She says in spite of the evidence provided from the ordeal, she has now become the hunted as her accuser has initiated a case of kidnapping against her at the Zone 2 division of the Lagos Police Command.
Because the man now wrote petition against me to Zone 2. That's accusing me of assault, threat of life, kidnapping. When we get to Zone 2, they say, which pregnant am I? Am I pregnant? That was what the IPO was saying. Even the Mrs. Nkoye, ASP Nkoye, the woman, the way she was handling the case, I was like, did the woman know me before?
Mrs. Odunza's experience may be child's play compared with the trauma experienced by a number of rape victims who choose to be anonymous. They have accused a former pastor of theirs of rape at different times. The survivors, in a telephone interview with Channels, claimed that their alleged abuser used subtle manipulation to make them comfortable before making his move.
Maybe I shouldn't even just stop this time. He says he's not going to do anything to me anyways. So I went naked, and immediately I went naked, he went naked too. And it was at that moment I knew that this was beyond a test. This was beyond test of loyalty or anything. So I was surprised, but then he had his way and arranged me in the sitting room. I was actually bleeding that day.
Played one spiritual song. I can still remember the song. Let praises rise from the inside. That was the song. And he started speaking in tongues. So I entered the room first. I nakeded myself and lied down on the bed. And he was speaking in tongues like he came inside all through. While having sex with me, was like speaking in tongues, telling me to say amen.
I'm a survivor myself.
Tonia Ojenagbo is a women's rights activist who first chanced upon their story.
In 2020, on the 7th of November, I got a WhatsApp message from a young lady who said someone directed her to me, that I'll be able to help her. So she sent some screenshots and some pictures to me, and one of the pictures was an infected private part of a female private part, which threw me off balance, and immediately I responded that, what is this? Her pastor infected her.
She speaks on her findings from her visit to the accuser's church.
That day was Father's Day. That you have said Happy Father's Day to your earthly father, and you haven't said Happy Father's Day to your father in the Lord, who is more important than your earthly parents. And my colleague and I looked at ourselves and no, this is not right.
Ojenagbo wonders why the said pastor is still a free man, despite all evidence provided to prove the case brought by the victims.
Did you hear what I said just now?
I didn't hear you, sir.
I said let's commit this sin together.
Sin, sir?
The Chief Operating Officer of the ACVPN, Mr. Ebenezer Omejalili, wonders why cases like this don't get accelerated hearing and prosecution by the state, just as others involving relatively big names like actor Baba Ijesha.
Accelerated prosecution on Baba Ijesha's case. And because Baba Ijesha is a big fish, and everybody wants to make name, till less than 1 year, he got judgment. So why is it that and so many of the pastors, the regional cleric, are still working free?
The Executive Secretary of the Domestic Violence and Response Unit responds to the perception of selective treatment of cases held by the ACVPN.
In Lagos State, we have designated police stations referred to as family support units, and we enjoy a seamless, if I may say, working relationship with these divisions.
But according to her, the Alagwa division of the force handling the rape case is not one of them.
And where we felt that it was the need for DPP to step in, we made that call. And just last week, DPP was able to issue legal advice that the man has a case to answer. And so let's not compare tomatoes to potatoes. Yes, it appears that one case has gone a certain way and in straight court, but the facts are different.
Meanwhile, the force PRO and the spokesperson of the Zone 2 division of the police force were not available to comment on the matter as at the time of this report. Activism against cases of physical violence and sexual assault against women is about social justice, as offences continue when suspects are not detained and prosecuted in a timely manner. Many expect the authorities to take this as a major social melee and tackle it frontally. Bukola Samuel Wemimo, Channels Television News.
And to anti-smuggling activities, barely 1 month after the commissioning of 2 new facilities at the Customs Warehouse in Ikeja, Lagos, the depositories are already filled up with smuggled rice. We're speaking with journalists on the activities of the Federal Operations Unit in the Southwest Zone. The acting controller, Hussein Ejibonu, told reporters that over 8,000 bags of rice were seized from smugglers, especially during this festive period.
It's the end of another year, and men of the Federal Operations Unit of Customs in the Southwest seem to be recording huge success in curbing the activities of smugglers. Newly commissioned warehouses are filled with close to 9,000 bags of foreign rice impounded across the zone.
8,999 bags of rice in 1 month. So that goes to tell you that that is what is in vogue now. It's rice.
This feat did not come easy, as the smugglers did not give up without a fight, injuring officers on patrol.
At Imashai, my officers went there on intelligence, and stockpile of rice was discovered. And in the process of evacuation, they have already loaded. On their way, hoodlums came and started firing them. See the picture of my officer, see bullet wound.
Other challenges the Customs Unit hopes to conquer as the year winds down is clamping down on those who try to evade import duties and other monies payable to the government.
Well, let's cross over into the world of business on the news at 10. Here's Anne Ouaudo.
Thank you, Kayode. Hello and welcome to Business News. President Muhammadu Buhari says his administration's focus is on building and maintaining economic growth through the National Economic Diversification Agenda in the new year. The president made this known today in his New Year message. He says it's aimed at supporting the goal of national food self-sufficiency and the growth in non-oil sources. He also says the ongoing infrastructure revolution by the federal government will enable the delivery of key projects across the nation in power, roads, rail, ports, and technology. The president highlighted that his administration has been resolute through its diversification and interventions on the economy, which has helped the country remain resilient despite the ongoing global crisis. The governor of Imo State, Senator Hope Uzodimma, has signed into law the budget for the 2023 fiscal year after being passed by the Imo State House of Assembly. Speaking after the signing ceremony at the government house in Owerri, the Imo State capital, the governor says the speedy passage of the 2023 budget by the lawmakers is commendable. It will go a long way to achieving the objectives of this shared prosperity agenda as enshrined in the budget, especially as it regards the implementation of capital projects in the state.
This budget, with a capital expenditure of over 74%, is meant to bring rapid development to Imo State. It is my hope, having been signed into law, that the expected impact will be realized within record time.
And elsewhere in the country, the governor of Nasarawa State, Abdullahi Sule, has signed the 2023 appropriation bill into law. The governor says the bill will be increased from 114.9 to 149.3 billion naira by the House of Assembly. It will enable him deliver dividends of democracy without being distracted by elections. And still with budget matters, we head to Akwa Ibom State, where the governor, Udom Emmanuel, has signed a total of 700 billion naira as the state's government spending plan for the 2023 fiscal year. The figure is 2.99 billion naira, and that's about 0.4% higher than the 697 billion naira earlier presented by the governor to the State House of Assembly, comprising recurrent expenditure of over 344 billion naira and 355.99 billion naira capital expenditure. The governor, Emmanuel, also thanked the state legislature, the budget office, and all other agencies that have played their roles towards the timely passage of the budget and successes recorded by his administration in the various areas of development. And to some company news now, Wema Bank's board has appointed the bank's deputy managing director, Maruf Hosseini, as its new chief executive. And this follows the imminent retirement of the current CEO, Ademola Adebise, who exits the bank at the end of the first quarter of 2023. The bank also announced the appointment of Tunde Mabawoku, who is now the executive director, who currently serves as the chief financial officer. And that's business news for tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwaudu. The rest of the news at 10 continues now with Kayode.
Well, thank you, Anne. To education now, where the Edo State government is looking to reopen the College of Agriculture in Ovia Northeast local government area as the reconstruction work is now in advanced stages of completion. Governor Godwin Obaseki gave this assessment after visiting the college site. He's also confident that the institution on resumption will produce skilled graduates that will be guaranteed automatic employment.
Obaseki prepares to receive private lectures.
Well, let's switch gears now on the news at 10. It's time for sports news with Ayatollah Balogun.
Many thanks, Kaide. Welcome to Sports News. Followers of the beautiful game in the United Kingdom have joined the growing numbers of fans to pay their tributes to the late football legend Pelé of Brazil. They describe Pelé as the heart of football and of whose exploits can never be forgotten. Our sports correspondent, Austin Okonakwan, reports.
The English are the founding fathers of the beautiful game of football, but followers of the sport believe that Pelé transformed it. Celebrated for his admirable talent and originality on the field, Pelé used the power of football to propagate love and connect with the world.
And it was during a time when there was a lot of, I would say, a lot of negativity about black people, what they can achieve, what they're capable of. So someone like Pelé is really up there with the stars because he really is an exemplification of black excellence.
I think that he's the one who put the football, the love of football on the map. And although I'm Argentinian, I'm proud to say that everybody loves Pelé.
Pelé's worldwide influence has been felt by the old and young.
Greatest player in the world. He's a legend. You know, I think he scored something like how many goals, Matthew?
I don't know.
Over 1,000 goals, I think. You know?
He'll be remembered always for his brilliant talent.
What in particular will we remember him for?
His dribbling, amazing. Yes.
And for a younger person, how did you get to know so much about Pelé?
I mean, you have to know about him. He's an amazing player, and he inspires everyone, especially my age, to know how to play football.
Wonderful. In 1961, the king of football was declared a national treasure in Brazil. In 1997, he received an honorary British knighthood.
We are from Brazil, and since when I was a child, my father always talked about him, that he was the best soccer player that we have in Brazil. Today we have so many soccer players that were inspired by Pelé.
It's a big loss, and I don't know if there will be anybody like Pelé anytime. I don't know.
Edson Arantes do Nascimento, popularly known as Pelé, football made him a global icon that was loved and adored. And even at death, followers of the sport in the United Kingdom believe that Pelé is still the global face of football. In London, Austin Okonakpan, Channels Television News.
In club football in England, Arsenal FC head into the year 2023 with a formidable 7-point lead at the top of the English Premier League after a 4-2 win at Brighton earlier on. With Mikel Arteta's side powered to a 5th successive league victory thanks to goals from Bukayo Saka, Martin Odegaard, Eddie Nketiah and Gabriel Martinelli on New Year's Eve at the Amex Stadium. But the Gunners stormed into the lead after just 2 minutes when Martinelli's deflected effort reached England forward Saka, who took a deft touch before slotting past Brighton keeper Robert Sanchez. Arsenal's 9th win in their last 10 league matches was even sweeter, coming just hours after second-place City stumbled at the Etihad Stadium, playing a 1-0 draw with Everton. And that's Sports News. I'm Ayotunde Balogun.
Thank you, Ayotunde. Former leader of the Catholic Church, Pope Benedict XVI, has died at his Vatican residence at the age of 95, almost 10 years after he stood down because of ailing health. Pope Benedict was elected in 2005 at the age of 78 and presided over the church for about 8 years until his resignation in 2013. He was one of the oldest popes ever elected. Born Joseph Ratzinger in April 1927, the former pope spent his final years at the Mater Ecclesiae monastery within the walls of the Vatican. Although the former pontiff had been ill for some time, the Holy See said there had been an aggravation in his condition because of advance in age. On Wednesday, Pope Francis appealed to his final audience of the year at the Vatican to pray a special prayer for Pope Emeritus Benedict, whom he said was very ill. Meanwhile, here in Nigeria, the president has paid tribute to former Pope Benedict XVI. President Muhammadu Buhari commiserated with Pope Francis, the Catholic Church in Nigeria and around the world, as well as all Christian faithful, mourning the passing of the Pope Emeritus on behalf of the government and people of Nigeria. President Buhari conveyed his tribute today through a statement released by his special advisor, Mr. Femi Adesina. It describes the late pontiff as one who was globally admired for his selfless leadership, renowned learning as a theologian, and dedication to advance interfaith dialogue and peace. Well, it's a little over an hour to go before the clock strikes midnight here in Nigeria, but some parts of the world have already ushered in the new year. The Pacific Island nation of Kiribati was the first to welcome 2023 at 1000 GMT and 1 hour later by New Zealand at 1100 GMT. Well, the first major city to see the new year, New Zealand, celebrated with fireworks display in Auckland. Well, the fireworks lit up Auckland's 328-meter tall Sky Tower, which returned after the cancellation of last year's fireworks due to concerns over the coronavirus Omicron variant. The display lasted 5 minutes, with 500 kilograms of pyrotechnics launched from the tower, with the Auckland Harbour Bridge also illuminated. Revelers watched on as brightly colored single-star comets and multiple fireworks shot into the night sky. Well, Australia has also welcomed the new year. In Sydney, fireworks were launched from its Harbour Bridge, Opera House and barges in its famous harbour. We'll definitely wait for our fireworks here in Nigeria. And the main news again. President Muhammadu Buhari, in his last New Year's message to Nigerians today, called on the citizens to unite as one country to weather all challenges facing the nation, just as he restated his resolve to ensure successful conduct of the 2023 general elections. Also today, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, said over 2 million voter cards are yet to be collected in Lagos and Abuja, 55 days to the 2023 general elections. And that's the news at 10 for tonight. From all of us here at Channels Television.